If you follow Formula One closely, you know that sometimes the biggest bombs don't explode on the track, but in interviews. And that's exactly what happened on the eve of the Austrian GP. George Russell, a Mercedes driver, said one of those phrases that seem innocent, but carry a huge weight when read between the lines. During a conversation with the press, the British driver let slip an insinuation that shook up the behind-the-scenes of the category. Mercedes may be in talks with Max Verstappen. Yes, you heard right. The three-time world champion, the absolute symbol of Red Bull, may be on the Silver Team's radar for 2026. And the most curious thing? This statement came precisely from someone who doesn't yet have a signed contract with the team itself. Coincidence? Hard to believe. So stay until the end of the video to understand this controversy. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It all started with a simple question. When asked by Sky Sports regarding the progress of his contract negotiations, Russell admitted that there are no major updates. But why did such a small statement generate such a stir? Simple. Because it came without any denial. Another interesting point is that this statement was made at a critical moment, the weekend of the Austrian GP. An important circuit for Red Bull, which owns the track, it's worth remembering, and the perfect stage to fuel speculation. George knew that any statement he made there would have double the weight. And yet he chose not to put out the fire. On the contrary, he added fuel to the fire. This reinforces the idea that he may be using the media strategically. By insinuating that the team is flirting with Verstappen, Russell puts himself in a position of alert. He knows that his place may be threatened, especially with Kimi Antonelli arriving as the great promise of the Mercedes Academy. Now, think about it. What if George Russell is just being transparent about what is already inevitable? Verstappen is, indeed, bothered by the behind-the-scenes goings-on at Red Bull. The Christian Horner case has divided opinions within the team. Adrian Newey is already leaving. Helmut Marko has been losing strength, and the internal climate is far from healthy. Verstappen has already warned that he has an exit clause if certain people leave the team, and this clause could be the golden ticket that Mercedes was hoping for. In this context, Russell's statement doesn't seem so absurd anymore, right? It could be the reflection of a movement that is already underway and that is now starting to become public in a strategic way. Continuing the interview with Sky Sports, George Russell said, "I feel that with the performance I'm showing at the moment, still in line with the performance I've shown over all these years, I have no reason to worry. But obviously it would help if there was pen on paper. But we'll see." The British driver has certainly delivered positive results so far this season, taking his first win of 2025 at the Canadian Grand Prix, following a string of solid performances, particularly early in the season. These consistent performances, including 5 podiums, have resulted in him finishing 4th in the standings, 19 points behind Red Bull's Verstappen. Mercedes are currently 2nd in the Constructors' Championship, but the fight for second place remains fierce. For my part, I don't think I have anything to worry about. I think as a team it depends on where you put your aspirations, he continued. Interestingly, Russell was keen to address the speculation surrounding Verstappen, seemingly confirming that talks between the Dutchman and Mercedes were ongoing. As Mercedes, they want to get back to the top, and to get back to the top you have to make sure you have the best drivers, the best engineers, the best pit crew, and that's what Mercedes is looking for. So it's normal that conversations with people like Verstappen continue. There is tension between Russell and Verstappen, with the two clashing on more than one occasion. But the Mercedes driver is not giving much thought to this alleged rivalry. "That's not even something I think about," he told other media outlets on Thursday. "I think when you're racing against the best and the most aggressive, you have to stay strong and make sure you give it your all. So that's my approach when I'm racing against someone of his caliber, but at the end of the day, I'm just minding my own business. I'm fighting for myself, for my team, and if Max and I have met a few times in the last 6 months, that's how things have gone." Although team principal Toto Wolff has reassured Russell about his place at the team, the driver has opened the door to the possibility that his teammate's seat could also be up for grabs. "Toto has made it clear to me that he thinks my performance this year is as good as anyone else's," he said. "I think there is only one driver you can argue with in terms of performance. Those are his words, not mine. So that's why I have no concerns about the future. But there are 2 spots on each team, and I think he needs to think about who those 2 drivers are going to be for those 2 spots. And I think that's why the delay is happening. Before I continue, please like and subscribe to the channel so that the YouTube algorithm recommends this video, and let's go. Russell's contract currently runs through the end of the 2025 season. That is, he enters the second half of 2025 as a free agent for 2026, if nothing is resolved by then. This, in itself, would be enough to generate a climate of insecurity. In this scenario, Russell seems to be right in the middle of the storm. On the one hand, he needs to prove that he is the right person to lead the team in the new cycle of regulations from 2026. On the other, he knows that he is not completely safe, especially if Mercedes is willing to sacrifice the current stability to build a super team. Kimi Antonelli, this young prospect from the Mercedes Academy, who has practically already secured his spot for next season. Antonelli was promoted with high expectations as a result of the investment that Mercedes has been making to develop talent in its youth academy. The stakes are high, as he is seen as the future of the team. However, the arrival of a driver of Verstappen's caliber could complicate this scenario a lot. Mercedes would have a trio of stars on its hands, but only 2 spots for regular drivers. Verstappen is a 3-time world champion and one of the most dominant drivers in the modern era of Formula One. His arrival at any team would mean a drastic change in the internal dynamics. He is not a driver who accepts being a supporting role, but it's not quite that simple. George Russell has a strong track record with the team, a consistent performance, and has proven himself to be a driver capable of challenging for the top. He's not just a transitional driver. He's one of F1's brightest prospects, with the ability to lead a team. If Mercedes were to opt out of Russell, they would have to deal with the risk of losing a valuable talent to other teams, and that's not something a team of Mercedes' caliber wants. In addition, we have to take into account the Formula One calendar and regulations for 2026. With the introduction of new cars, new technical rules, and a different approach to teams, Mercedes could be planning a complete overhaul. This includes not only the car, but also the driving philosophy, the distribution of resources, and the management of the team. Verstappen fits perfectly into this new profile, as he is an aggressive driver and experienced in dealing with regulation changes. The pressure mounts even more when we look at Max Verstappen himself. The Dutchman has already made it clear that he is unhappy with some aspects of Red Bull. If Verstappen does decide to move on, the Silver team will not hesitate to make an offer. But to do so, they need to ensure that seats are available, and that puts George Russell squarely in the eye of the storm. Ultimately, this game of musical chairs isn't just about who's going to drive where. It's about long-term strategy, about power within the team, and about Mercedes' vision for its future in Formula One. Russell, Antonelli, and Verstappen aren't just names, they're symbols of this transition. The team will have to balance ambition, talent management, and contract negotiations to put together the ideal lineup. And whoever ends up getting hurt in this story could end up completely changing the face of F1 for years to come. So, if you thought the Austrian GP would be just another race, now you know. Behind the scenes, the game has already begun. But tell me, what did you think of this video? Leave a comment below because I want to hear your opinion, and be sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing.